How much does the average extension cost per square metre? How do you find the right builder? Do I need a structural engineer or can my builder choose a steel beam? How long does an extension take from planning to completion and what affects the timeline? What's the first power tool a DIY should buy? What's the biggest DIY challenge I've overcome? I'm going to answer 8 of your questions, so stay tuned. How much does the average extension cost per square metre? Now that's not a simple answer. You might have an extension, you might have a refurbishment, or a garage conversion, loft conversion, you name it. Each project is specific to that one build. Now an average extension will cost anything between £2,500 to £3,000 per square metre. How do you find the right builder? Firstly, you want to look at the builder themselves. Are there someone you can trust? Is the builder willing to sign a contract? And will they let you see previous work that they've completed? A big sign of a good builder is someone that comes recommended. If family or friends recommend the builder to you and you can also see the work that they've completed, that's a really good sign that the builder's a good one. It's really important not to go with the cheapest quote. A builder that's priced a job too cheap will either cut corners or walk off the job because he can't make any money on it. Do I need a structural engineer or can my builder choose a steel beam? Essentially no, you need a structural engineer. A builder can't choose the steel beam purely because they're not licensed as a designer to undertake that sort of work. A structural engineer will calculate the loading that that steel beam is going to take. If it's a short span, then yes, a lintel can support it, and you can buy one of those lintels off the shelf. Anything bigger than a normal catnip lintel will need to be calculated by a structural engineer. You ask, can I share some winterproofing tips? If I'm honest, I don't have many winterproofing tips. I would say 3 things. Lag any pipes that are exposed to cold weather. Increase the insulation in your loft if you can do, as that will help retain the heat. And if you've got any drafts, make sure you seal any drafts around windows and doors. How long does an extension take from planning to completion and what affects the timeline? Having a project manager or not can really affect the time it takes to complete a project. A project manager will make sure a project runs smoothly, ensuring materials arrive on time and that trades are where they're supposed to be at each specific moment. Changing a plan at the last minute will really impact the time it takes to complete that project, because that'll add on extra time. Additionally, if you get your budgeting wrong, expenses might run over and you might have to stop work until you can afford to carry on. What's the first power tool a DIY should buy? I recommend a combi drill. It's super versatile, and as a DIYer, all you really need to do is drill things and screw stuff. What's the difference between planning permission and building control? Planning permission is dealt with by the local authority, whereas building control can be local authority or a private inspector. Planning permission is essentially dealing with the look of the property, whereas building control is looking at the structure and how that project conforms to building regulations. What's the biggest DIY challenge I've overcome? As a bricklayer, I'm used to building houses, but I've never done a hand-cut roof before. As an inspector, I've inspected hundreds of roofs and I know how they're constructed. I've seen it done many times. I've just never done it myself. So of course, I went to YouTube and looked at carpenters and how they constructed roofs. Learning how to cut a bird's mouth was my main stumbling block. Once I understood how the bird's mouth was cut, I was then able to cut each rafter so it sat nicely on the wall plate. Thanks for sending in your questions. I really enjoyed answering them. If you've got a question that didn't get answered, leave it in the comments below and I'll stick it in the next Q&A. If you haven't already, consider subscribing so we can grow this YouTube channel.